Welcome to today's show. For all of you watching on YouTube, please take a moment, hit that subscribe button, and click that bell for notifications. Today on Mr. Nashville Talks, we have an actress and a music legend, Miss Freda Payne. Well, today's guest I'm very excited about it because she is a living legend, an icon, and has done so many styles of music and excels in every one of them, in my opinion. And her latest album, Let There Be Love, it's an incredible new jazz project. And we're going to talk about that and her iconic career. Miss Freda Payne, how are you?
I'm fine.
How do you stay
Thank
looking
you.
so beautiful and young? And
Well, I'll put it this way. Sometimes you're looking good on the outside, but you're still a certain age on the inside, as they say.
well, you mask it really well. Um, I love the new project, Let There Be Love, and I love the jazz. I love it when you sing jazz, and this is
Uh-huh.
such an incredible project. And you have a couple of really incredible guests on there as well, with Kenny Lattimore and Johnny Mathis. And
Oh
um,
yeah.
how did you select?
Kurt Elling, Dee Dee
Oh yes,
Bridgewater.
how did you select the guests?
Well, I had a lot of help. I had Rodrigo Rios, who is the producer, and then of course I had the executive producer James Michael Getz as well. But it all started with Rodrigo Rios, and he came to me and he said, "Freda, I want to do an album with you. I would love to record a with a big band and strings." And he said, I would like." He says, "I see you doing. I hear you doing duets. And have you done them before?" I said, "Yeah, I've done duets, but not, like maybe one, on an album, like one, not two or three or four at the same time. But this time it's four." And he said, "I'm going to try to get Johnny Mathis." And I said, "Good luck," And he said, "I'm going to ask Brian McKnight." That's so Brian McKnight couldn't do it. His schedule was too busy. And we also went after Michael McDonald, who is someone I know and I have worked with before on many occasions. And he was tied up. I think he was doing some work with Chaka Khan. So, and then we went to Dee Dee. He asked Dee Dee Bridgewater. She said yes. And then Kenny Lattimore is someone I know personally. And I called him up and he said yes. And then he said, I would like to get Rodrigo said, "I would like to get Kurt Elling." And then I said, "Well, I said, "I know his work and he's fantastic. And I don't know if he'd say yes or not." But, I was kind of skeptical as to whether he would say yes. And because, he's kind of like out there now, he's on a really, a roll. And he did say yes.
Yeah.
And so we got the four. And by the way, his work with me, our duet is like sensational. All four of them are.
Yes. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's incredible. I love the whole album, and as I was saying, you managed to keep such a youthful, young voice and young look about you. How do you keep the voice so strong? Because it hasn't aged at all.
Well, I think it might have a lot to do with my health and also my living habits, my nutrition. Uh, Although I have to say, when I say health, that takes me to one of my idols, and that was Ella Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
And she wasn't, I mean, she was a person, she wasn't into drugs, because some people, they lose their voice because of the drug, their voice
Yeah.
deteriorates because of drug use.
Yeah.
She wasn't into drugs. She wasn't even a drinker, but she had diabetes. And also that can affect your body
Yeah.
very adversely, your eyesight,
Yeah.
even to the point where you have to have a leg amputated or a foot amputated or toes.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with Ella. And I noticed in following, because you see, first of all, I played Ella on stage legitimately in legit theater.
Yes.
And also I've done frequent in my club acts and performing arts center theater acts. I have done a tribute to Ella as well. So I have done my research from the beginning of her life till the end of her life. And I can tell in listening to her, Ella in the 30s, totally different from Ella in, let's say, in the 90s,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and she died in 1996, or even maybe even the 80s. I think her voice started to change a little bit, like around the, probably started in the 80s.
Mhm.
But I think she was in tip top form from the late 30s, all through the 40s, all through the 50s, 60s. And she stayed in tip top shape in the 70s. And I think that's when the diabetes started to really take a hold.
Yeah. 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 That.
So I have to say that it's probably like my lifestyle, um, my genes, although I do have other things that have started to happen in my body, like arthritis. So I have to say,
Oh,
I didn't get away. I didn't get away scot-free.
yeah. And you were a dancer too, so I'm sure you.
I studied dancing as a teen, ballet and modern dancing and jazz, modern jazz. And but I'd never made that my career. My
Yeah.
career has been mainly basically singing, but
Yes.
I have that background. Yeah.
And one thing that I always find I'm always surprised about with when I read up on you and everything is um, you never were signed to Motown, but they always cite Motown legend Freda Payne, and
I
it's like,
know, it's like an adoption.
yeah.
Because I have to tell you the real deal. Um, by the way, I'm working on my book. It's almost finished. It should be
Oh,
out
great.
by the end of the year, maybe in the fall. And it's a memoir of my life. And in there, you will probably read all the sordid details. I was Barry Gordy Jr.'s first female protege when I was 14.
Wow.
And the reason why, what happened was he became, and this is back in the 50s, by the way. Everybody, you have to look at my age. I'm in my late 70s. And
Wow.
and so when I was 14, it must have been like 1957,
Hmm.
around there.
Yeah.
And Barry had not yet even begun to establish Motown. That was forthcoming. It probably came around in another 2 to 3 or 4 years. But
Hmm.
anyway, um, he had heard about me because, see, I was kind of like a child protege around Detroit. I mean, not protege, prodigy, a child prodigy. And because I had won some talent contest on television in Detroit, and so people started, hearing about me here and there, and I would sing on different shows. Uh, and I also sang on the there was a radio station called, it was WJR. It's still there in Detroit, located in the penthouse of the Fisher Building. And
Oh,
it was a show called Don Large's Make Way for Youth. And it was a choral group, and I was a part of that. And Don Lodge used to frequently give me solos. And this was a NBC affiliated radio show that came on every Saturday afternoon.
ah,
And so Barry started hearing about me, and he was seeking out talent in Detroit. So he started to come to my dance class. And then he said, "Let's go in the studio. I wrote some songs for you." He wrote 4 songs for me, 4.
wow.
And they were recorded at United Sound, which was the main recording studio in Detroit. It was located on West Grand Boulevard, the same street where Hitsville is located
Yeah.
today. Matter of fact, almost like a block away or 2 blocks away. It's all really in that same area. Um, and also, they people did their commercials there. As a matter of fact, when I was 16, I was hired to do a few commercials there, radio and TV commercials, and that's when I had to join AFTRA at the
Oh,
age of 16. But anyway, Barry recorded the songs, and then uh, he wanted to manage me, and he and my mother could not agree. My mother would never agree with his terms,
yeah.
and he would never give in or say, let's compromise. That's what negotiation is all about.
Yeah,
What's the
exactly.
point of having a contract if you can't negotiate or
Right.
say, okay, you want this much? Well, how about that much?
Yeah.
And
Mama
he
was
was
looking out for her
unwilling to
baby.
budge. He was unwilling to budge. So that's what happened there. And then it reoccurred again in the 60s, in 1965, when there was Motown, and there was they were touring then, and you had the Supremes and little Stevie Wonder, Junior Walker.
Yeah,
um, you had all these groups, uh, the Miracles, Smokey Robinson's group, original
right.
group.
Yeah,
And so it happened again, and the same thing happened with Barry. So but in the meantime, there's no alienation. It's just that they consider me family. They
yeah,
consider me family because I'm from Detroit. We're all from the same pot. The Gordys actually went to the same church as my family attended, Bethel AME. Barry has always remained very fond of me. He shows no remorse about it. Um, or regret. I don't know. I look at it like fate.
yeah.
Everybody uh, has a road to follow.
Yes.
You go on your road, and you go on your road.
Yeah.
And I think my road was just meant to be a different road. That's all.
Well, and I often wondered a lot about that because there were so many of you wonderful singers from this area, and you'll hear like Aretha talk about, how she knew Diana a little bit and knew. Did you know Aretha growing up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so it really was that sense of community where everybody really knew each other.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know Diana at all
You
back
didn't know?
then. No,
Wow.
I didn't know her. And
Yeah.
I knew Aretha. I think what it was, we had a mutual friend, and I think he used to go to Aretha's church, with her father, Reverend Franklin.
Yes. Yeah.
And Aretha would ask about me, and then he would come and tell me about what Aretha was doing, and then back and forth, and he would go tell her what I was doing, that kind of thing. So we
Yeah.
kind of knew each other in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sense of
And
community.
as her career started to take off, I became immediate fan of hers because she was so wonderful.
Yes.
And it was just obvious that her talent stood out. I mean, it was just outstanding. And it was sort of like, when you think about soul singing, I would say, listen to Aretha,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, but
Yeah.
I dare you to try to copy her, because you either
Yeah.
have it or you don't.
Yep. Right. And she rarely did the same thing twice, it seemed like, when she did a song, she always had a few little different turns or.
Oh, yeah. H.B. Barnum, who was her musical director, an arranger for many years, he used to tell me, he said, girl, Aretha is something else. He said, every time I think she's doing a show or a song a certain way, she turns it all around and blows my mind. And HB was and is quite talented and gifted musician himself. And to hear a
Yeah.
musician say that, that's when you've got it going on.
Well, as you mentioned, you're writing your book and about your life. Do you have anybody in mind, if they made it into a movie, who you would like to play you?
I don't think I've ever gone or ventured that far, but let me see. It would have to obviously someone young, like in their 20s, right?
Yeah, that's right.
There would have to be the teenage Freda and then the adult Freda.
Yes. Yes.
So
True.
at this point, I venture not to say.
Yes. Well, you'll find somebody good. You'll find somebody. I know no one will be as good as the real thing, but I'm sure you'll find somebody great.
Well, I'll tell you this. Now that I've seen one um, movie done on Aretha, and what's that name? So it's Cynthia Erivo
Oh
playing
yeah.
Aretha. I can say that. I mean, I remember when before Aretha, passed away. I remember her giving interviews and saying she wanted Halle Berry to play her,
Yeah.
and I said to myself, I don't see that. That's
I
not
didn't
going to
either.
happen. That's
I
not
didn't
going
see
to
that either.
happen. But
Yeah.
I am looking forward to Jennifer Hudson.
That's me too. I'm right with you
I'm
there.
looking forward. I think she's really going to bring it.
Well, when you got the great song "Band of Gold," did you know that was going to be a hit? Was that a song you selected or the
No,
producers
it wasn't.
selected?
I
No,
didn't select it.
no.
It was a song that was given to me to learn and record, and that's what I did. I recorded. That was the first album I did was called Band of Gold, and we recorded quite a few songs in the beginning,
Yes.
and I thought they were all good. As a matter of fact, if Band of Gold was going to be the one to be the big hit, it wasn't chosen first. Another song was called The Unhooked Generation. That was the song that they picked out. That was the first release, the first single release.
Wow. And just "Band of Gold" just hit harder.
Band of Gold caught on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Band of Gold came up. Unhooked Generation was released in the fall of '69. And then in 1970, they released Band of Gold in February, I believe. And then by April, January, February, March, it was starting to like chart,
Yeah.
it was starting to catch on.
Well, it's one of those songs that it's kind of not really to one exact genre. I mean, other genres could play it on the radio as well. Does it make
I know what you're saying. It was
yeah,
crossover. It wasn't
yeah,
strictly R&B.
right,
It was
right.
also pop.
Yes,
It
exactly.
was more, some people have said that they thought that they felt that Band of Gold was more pop than R&B.
Well, that's what I was thinking. And that it had it was really a pop song because in the way that more people enjoyed it more that may not have listened to R&B or if that's the appropriate way of defining pop, I guess, that crossover appeal or whatever. Like today, I think a country singer could even do that song and
Oh yeah,
still
and do
feel
it
it.
their way, and do it
Yeah,
their way. And
right.
you're right. You're absolutely correct. I know that saying, what you're trying to say is that it had a crossover appeal uh to all the races.
Well, yeah, I'd say
It
so.
wasn't just, oh, this is a James Brown tune, or this is Aretha, but all those, even James Brown and Aretha appealed to
Everybody.
everybody.
Yeah, yeah,
When I first went to England, um, James Brown was big over there, and then over there, after Band Go became a big hit, and it was a big hit in the UK. It was number one for 6 weeks straight. And so when I first went over there to tour, I got the impression that they expected more of a soul singer in me,
ah,
and I'm not really. So, I mean, I tried to please as much as I could. So I had my Band of Gold. I sang some other songs that were on my Invictus record,
yeah.
and but I got the strong impression that they were expecting more of like, I guess, well, the Motown sound, or more like like Freda Payne, you're a soul singer. I said, well, kinda, kinda, sorta.
you know the British audiences, what I love about Britain, compared to us here in the States, is a lot of time, like if you had a great song over there or a great hit record, you're just as important to them 20 years later, 30 years later, as if you had released it last week. I wanted to also ask you about your song, Bring the Boys Home, which was, in the height of the Vietnam War and all of that. Did you get, so many people, they got like backlash if they said anything about the war, whether they were for it or whether they were against it. You couldn't please everybody. But how could we not want to bring our people back, our boys home? So I can't see why they would get upset, but maybe some people did. Did they do that to you? Did people get
They
upset?
did. I was, well, the record company got a telegram from Washington, D.C. stating that, and this was when the Republican Party was in the office, and it was Richard Nixon.
Yeah.
And they said that the recording of Bring the Boys Home will not be played in South Vietnam due to the fact that it is giving aid and comfort to the enemy. That's what they said. And I thought it was absolutely overreach and ridiculous. They
Yeah.
considered it an anti-war song.
Yeah.
But you know what? Nobody paid attention to that. It
Yeah.
became a hit right away. And I heard that it got played in Vietnam anyway, because so many former vets, Vietnam vets who have approached me have said that's where they first heard it. And they said, Freda, thank you, because it helped us.
Mhm.
It gave us comfort. It
Yeah.
was the opposite of what they said
Yeah,
in the
totally.
telegrams. It was the opposite. It gave comfort.
Yes, I agree. I mean, when you listen, I think it gave comfort even to people here, because that's what we should have wanted to do, and there's a lot of mothers that want their boys home and things. And, I just don't understand why
Well,
I understand it's
can I tell you
political.
what it is? It's strictly political.
Yeah.
And I understand it. Um, it's sort of like, why? I remember as far back as 1965 when I first went to Europe.
Mm.
I was working in a show in Oslo, Norway. It was a variety show. I was the only person of color in the show. They were all Europeans, Germany, Italy. Um, and we were at a theater called the Chat Noir, which means the Black Cat. And I remember once there was a comedian the comedian on the show. Uh, his name was George Oulmer, and he was from France, from Paris. And he said to me once, he said, he mentioned about the war in Vietnam. He says, America doesn't belong over there. They shouldn't be there. It's an unholy war. They were against it. In
Yeah.
Europe, they were against us being over there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a popular war. It wasn't a war that was celebrated as
Right.
a justifiable war. So that's what the problem was from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things in our country. It was very political,
Yeah.
and so the Republican Party, they were in office at the time, and I think they wanted it for their particular. They had their own reasons for the war continuing.
You mentioned earlier and about your church that you grew up in, and then you just mentioned the Bible as well. And um, do you still have a strong faith?
I stopped going to church when I moved to New York when I was 18. I just didn't do it. I was like, okay, I'm not interested right now. But first of all, I'm still a Christian. I
Yeah.
have my strong belief in God, and I know that I have angels over me watching me.
Yeah.
And I'm a blessed. I feel very blessed, and I am anointed.
Yes.
I'm not a constant churchgoer. My sister Sherry is, but I am I'm a Christian.
Yes. And then that's what I was getting into, that, because it's the spiritual side of us,
Yes, the spiritual side.
yeah. There we were talking about Europe, and we were talking about faith, and that brings up another person that you have sang with that I really enjoyed, and I'm a big fan of as well, is Cliff Richard. While you were over there in the UK, how did that come about that you guys sang together?
Well, that all came about because of my dear friend who's now departed, David Guest.
Mm.
And
Oh yeah,
David was over there. He was lit. First of all, he's from here. Matter of fact, he's from Encino, where I live now.
yeah.
And he was living here, and then he lived in New York for a while, and then he lived in Memphis, Tennessee for a while, bought a house, and then he decided to move on to the UK. So he was living in Liverpool, and he was giving parties and shows over there in UK. He became a real big celebrity over there, as a matter of fact. So he gave this party where I performed at, along with me, Martha Reeves, Billy Paul, um, Percy Sledge, and Dorothy Moore, and Cliff Richard was invited. And then afterwards, David introduced me to Cliff Richard, and he said, I'm planning with Cliff to do a show. He said to record first of all, to record an album, and it's going to be with all soul singers, and I want you to be a part of it. And we're going to call it Solicious. So that's how I got to meet Cliff Richard. And I did record um, a duet with Cliff Richard, and the duet is called Saving a Life, and the name of the album is Solicious.
I love that. I love
And
that.
it's all duets.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I saw the concert where you sang. I mean, I wasn't there in person, but I saw
Yeah,
footage of
it's
where you sang.
online.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
and it's out on, you can buy it in a DVD, the concert. It was done at the O2 Arena in London,
Yes.
and it's called Solicious. It's Richard is the, Headle is the star, and it was wonderful. It was we did the album, was recorded in Memphis,
Oh
Tennessee,
wow.
and except for a couple of the tracks were done in New York, but the majority of the album was Memphis, Tennessee, and then we did a concert over there in 2011. We did a touring concert, which was one of the best I have ever done in my entire career. I mean, the way he does it, whoa,
Yeah,
that's what you call first class plus.
that's great.
And then, like I said, that was a whole experience with Cliff Richard, Sir Cliff Richard,
Certainly, yeah, that's right.
knighted by the Queen.
And for those that maybe in America that don't know who he is, he's kind of like the Elvis of
Oh yeah,
he's
yeah.
huge over there.
He was huge. I mean, he was like Elvis Presley in Europe. He's like
Yes.
Elvis Presley
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
Beatles and the
Yeah,
Beatles.
exactly. Exactly. You've managed to always stay so current with so many things. You were on American Idol, but one thing that I think is really interesting is how you were uh, got to work with Eddie Murphy in
Oh yeah, and the Clumps,
the
the
Clubs.
Nutty
Yes,
Professor 2. It was called Nutty Professor, the Clumps.
yes. How did that
Yeah.
come about?
My agent called me and said, I'm going to send you on an audition for the new Eddie Murphy movie, about Nutty Professor, the second one. And I went on the audition, and then they called me back again to come back, a call back. And I said, oh, wow, maybe I have a chance. And so when I did the call back, after that, I got booked. That's how that came about.
Was it a fun job to do or?
It was a fun job. Oh yeah, it was only one day. I was only shooting one day, but it was nice. Oh, Eddie was a dream, very professional. I felt so at home with him. And
Yeah.
I got a chance to really sit down and have a little conversation with Janet Jackson, because she was the female, she was his female co-star.
I forgot that. I forgot that until you mentioned that. But yeah, yeah, that's true. I I think my friend took some of the photos inside. Alan Mercer.
Oh, Alan, that's my buddy. I love Al. Oh, this is his picture.
Yes, yeah,
That's the one that Alan took.
yes. It's beautiful. Of course, he's got a great model,
I
so
think this should have been on the cover.
yeah, I think so too. Of course, I'm partial, but Alan, he's a great guy. He's a very nice man, great photographer, and and you are beautiful on the cover and the both sides of the front and the back.
Thank you.
Um, you did so many things in your career that um, you went you worked for Pearl Bailey.
I was actually a background singer. I was only 17 years old. And
Wow.
then I got a chance to work. I didn't really work with him. I got a chance to sing with his big band, and that was Duke Ellington.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And when I was 17, yeah.
So you've had a lot of amazing career uh, shoots up the ladder of different, before you, this was all in your younger years before you had the hit record when you were with, well, obviously Pearl, yes, because you were 17, but in singing backup. But I meant the sing with Duke Ellington's band. Was that after you had already made it, or
Oh, no. I
no?
mean, that was when I was 17.
Oh, back then. Oh, wow.
Period. Back
Oh, okay.
then, when I was
I
just a kid.
Oh,
I was
okay. I
a teenager.
misunderstood. Sorry.
And then I worked with, as a young adult in my early 20s, I worked with Lionel Hampton's band. I
Wow.
actually worked with them, and I did some college dates with him as well.
Yeah, he's a major talent as well, and he's from my hometown actually.
Lionel Hampton.
Yeah, in Louisville, Kentucky,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they put him in the Hall of Fame not too long ago, about 12 years or so, probably. I guess it is a long time. And then, um, I'm located right now in Nashville, and I wondered if, I'm sure you've performed here many times over the years. Do you have any special memories of performing here or recording here, or?
Well, I don't think I ever recorded in Nashville, and I believe I only performed in Nashville once, and that
Really?
was when I was in the touring national company of Jelly's Last Jam. And
Really?
I think we did our first show. Our It was like a whole year of a tour of the
Mhm.
Broadway hit Jelly's Last Jam, starring Maurice Hines and Savion Glover and me.
Oh man, that
And
was a great show.
Nashville was our kickoff city.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I
That's
remember that now because I had the little apartment. I think we were there like about 2 weeks, it was like about 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah. Because it was doing our tech work and all that kind of stuff.
oh well we
We did all the rehearsing in New York,
yes.
and then we drove, and then everybody flew into Nashville, Tennessee. And Nashville has become really popular lately.
Yes. There
Like
are so
people
many.
moving there.
Yes.
People are moving there.
Before we go, I was just gonna ask you, who would, you've had this great album, Let There Be Love, um, these great singers on there. Who would you like to work with now that you haven't worked with as of yet?
Oh, you mean recording like a
Yeah.
duet or just working with,
Well,
period?
either way.
Well, I'd like to do now. I've worked with him many times, a lot, and that's Peebo Bryson.
Oh, he's amazing.
I'd like to do a duet with Peebo. His voice is, I love his voice. He
Yes.
lives in Atlanta. He lives in Atlanta. I want to do a duet with him. And who else? Oh, Gregory Porter.
Yeah, that's another amazing one. Well, I appreciate your time so much, and thank you so much for doing this with us today.
You're
Um,
welcome.
and hopefully I'll get to meet you one day in person. But I feel like I've had a little bit of that right now.
Yeah.
Subscribe to our mailing list and you could win a CD or DVD project by today's featured artist. To enter, please go to www.mrnashvilletalks.com and enter your email address. While there, take a look around, browse through our music store. Our show is totally funded by viewer support. Every t-shirt or music purchase from our store helps bring us new shows for you.